The day I lost my job, my son told me I was just a burden and threw me out like trash. That sentence still burns in my chest. Not because it was loud, not because he screamed, but because he said it so calmly, like I was some old couch he didn't need anymore. I remember that night like it happened 5 minutes ago. The rain was pouring. The motel room smelled like mildew and cigarette smoke. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in my work clothes, holding the plastic bag that had all my belongings. One pair of shoes, two shirts, my late husband's photo. I didn't cry right away. It was too much to feel at once. I just sat there frozen. The silence was loud, and for the first time in my life, I realized I had nowhere to go. After everything I gave him, after every night I skipped dinner so he could eat, after every bill I paid alone when his father walked out, he looked me in the eye and said, "You're not my responsibility." I thought that was the end of my story, but it wasn't.
Cut to today.
I step out of a black car, heels clicking against marble tiles. Diamond earrings, red lipstick, designer bag. People hold doors open for me now. They don't know where I came from. And my son, he still doesn't know where I got the money or what I did with it, but he's about to find out. You don't just become a burden overnight. It takes years of giving until there's nothing left to take. I was 23 when his father walked out. No note, no goodbye, just an empty bank account and an eviction notice. 2 weeks later, I still remember holding my baby boy on my hip, trying to keep him warm with my own coat, standing outside the landlord's office, begging for just a little more time. He was only two, too small to understand, too sick to care. He had terrible asthma, spent more nights in the ER than in his own bed. I got used to sleeping in waiting room chairs, got used to hearing monitors beep instead of lullabies. I worked anything I could find. Waitressing, cleaning, dishwashing. Sometimes 2 jobs in one day, 3 in a week. My hands cracked from bleach and dish soap. My back ached. My knees gave out. But I never let him see me cry. Not once. He deserved a mother who was strong. So I smiled even when I was starving. I skipped meals so he could eat. Wore the same coat for 5 winters. Taped up my shoes when the soles fell off. But he had everything I never did. New school shoes every year, books, toys, birthday cakes with real frosting. I made sure he never felt poor, even when we were. Eventually, I got lucky. A friend told me about a cleaning job. Long hours, but good pay. The woman's name was Miss Grace. 80 years old, elegant, sharp as a tack. I started off just cleaning her house, but over time she let me in. She liked my tea. I liked her stories. We spent birthdays together, Christmases too. She didn't have any children. I think she saw me as something more. And honestly, I needed that. I never had a mother figure of my own. She paid me well, on time, in cash. Thanks to her, I finally saved up for an actual apartment. We weren't rich, not even close, but for once, we were stable, safe. 15 years passed like that. She grew frilier. I stayed, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I owed her more than she knew. Meanwhile, my son was growing too. Bright kid, quiet, always had a book in his hand. I worked extra shifts to send him to college. He got into a good one. Out of state, I cried the day we dropped him off. Proud tears, hopeful tears. But when he came back, something had changed. His hugs were shorter, his voice colder. He started calling me mom less and saying you more. He never asked about my day, never thanked me anymore. At first, I thought it was just stress, but deep down I knew I was no longer useful to him. And someday he'd stop pretending to care altogether. I just didn't know how soon that day would come. I didn't expect that day to be her last. Miss Grace had her tea in the morning like always. She even complimented my lemon scones. By noon, she was gone. I found her sitting peacefully in her favorite chair, book in her lap, glasses tilted. She looked like she was just sleeping. But I knew before I even touched her hand. I knew the silence in that house felt different. Heavy, hollow, final. I stayed until the coroner came. I cleaned the teacup. I folded her blanket because I didn't know what else to do. 15 years. She was more than an employer. She was the only person who ever treated me like I mattered. The next day, the estate lawyer came. Cold, efficient. Told me the house would be locked for probate, job terminated, no severance, just done. 15 years, and it ended with a locked door and a nod. I held it together on the bus home, tried to breathe, tried to tell myself it would be okay. That night, I walked through my son's front door like a ghost, still in my uniform, still holding my keys like I had somewhere to go. He didn't look up from the TV. His wife rolled her eyes. "Is something wrong?" she asked, like I was inconveniencing her dinner. I told them softly that Miss Grace had passed, that I was out of work, that I just needed a little time to figure things out. He didn't even wait 5 seconds before speaking. "Well, we can't support 3 adults on 1 paycheck, Mom." My heart sank. His wife chimed in, arms crossed. "You're not contributing. We've got 2 kids to feed. We can't keep carrying you." I blinked. Did they really think I'd been freeloading every month? I gave them money, groceries, paid the kids' school fees. I watched those babies while they went on date nights, cleaned their kitchen, did their laundry, but none of it mattered now. 3 days later, he sat me down. He said it was temporary. He said he'd help me find something, but his eyes wouldn't meet mine. By the end of the week, I was standing in front of a motel door, holding a garbage bag full of my clothes. He didn't even step out of the car, just popped the trunk and stared at his phone. When I turned to say goodbye, he gave me a thumbs up like I was heading off on vacation. No hug, no emotion, no shame. That night, I sat on the edge of a motel bed listening to the hum of the vending machine outside and the couple next door arguing about money. And I thought, this is what it feels like to be discarded. To give someone your whole life and have them hand you a key to a motel room instead of a thank you. People think heartbreak is loud. It isn't. It's quiet, slow, cold. It's the sound of a motel heater sputtering at 2 a.m. The taste of cheap instant noodles 3 nights in a row. The silence when no one calls. Not even on your birthday. The first week I told myself it was temporary, that my son would call, that he'd realize what he did. Maybe I had misunderstood him. But the days turned to weeks, and all I got was silence. I sold my wedding ring first, pawned it for enough to pay another week at the motel and a few groceries. It felt like losing him all over again. Then went my necklace, then the little gold earrings I bought myself when I turned 40. All gone. I applied for jobs, restaurants, grocery stores, even janitorial work. But when they saw my age and the fact that I didn't finish high school, they smiled politely and told me they'd keep my application on file. That file must be a trash can. I walked home each day with blisters in my shoes and rejection letters in my purse. Nights were worse, cold, lonely. I'd sit in the dark wrapped in a thin blanket and scroll through old photos on my phone. Pictures of my son when he was little, his gap-toothed smile, his tiny arms wrapped around my neck. I wanted to scream. Where did that boy go? Then came my birthday. I didn't expect much. Just maybe a text, a call, one kind word. But the day passed like any other. No messages, no missed calls, nothing. That night I opened Facebook and there it was. A photo of him and his wife at a fancy restaurant. She was holding a wine glass. He had his arm around her waist. They looked happy, comfortable, untouched by guilt. The caption read, "Thankful for my real family. Wouldn't trade them for anything." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I put the phone down and started shaking. My hands, my chest, my voice. I tried to hold it in, but the tears came anyway. Fast, hot, ugly. I cried like I hadn't cried in years. The kind of crying that empties you out, that leaves you hollow. And somewhere in that broken moment I whispered, I gave him everything. And now I'm nothing to him. It wasn't just heartbreak. It was erasure. Like I never mattered. Like I never existed. But here's the thing about hitting rock bottom. There's nowhere else to go but up. It had been 4 months since the motel. 4 months of scraping by, of silence, of shame, of being invisible. I stopped counting the rejections, stopped checking my phone, even stopped hoping. So, when I got the call, I almost didn't answer. It was from a law office. I thought it was a scam until the woman on the other end said a name I hadn't heard aloud in weeks, Miss Grace Delaney. My heart stopped for a second. I couldn't breathe. The woman continued, professional and calm. Ms. Grace had left behind a last will and testament, and I had been listed as a primary beneficiary. I thought I misheard. I was just her housekeeper. But no, she had left everything. Her house, her savings, her stocks, bonds, art pieces, even the jewelry in her safe. Total value, $7.5 million. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. I just sat there, phone to my ear, staring at the peeling motel wallpaper like it would explain what was happening. Then the lawyer said, "There's also a letter. She wrote it specifically for you." When I arrived at the office, they handed me an envelope with my name written in Ms. Grace's elegant handwriting. I opened it with trembling fingers. It read, "You were more than a maid to me. You were loyal, kind, honest, and you gave me companionship when I had none. You were the daughter I never had. This is my way of saying thank you. Live the life you never got to live." By the time I finished reading, the letter was wet with my tears. Grief hit me like a second wave. She was really gone, but she hadn't forgotten me. She had seen me, not as a burden, not as a servant, but as someone worthy. I signed the papers in silence, hands still shaking. No fanfare, no audience, just me and a lawyer who looked at me like I'd suddenly become someone else. Maybe I had. And the first thing I did, no, it wasn't a mansion or diamonds. It was a hot meal, a real one. Steak, potatoes, fresh bread with butter. I sat at a table alone in a quiet restaurant and ate slowly. For the first time in months, I tasted food without guilt. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't afraid of the bill. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. Because power like that, it's best served quietly. They thought they threw me away, but all they did was set me free. And I wasn't done yet. I thought I was done crying over him after everything he said. After leaving me at that motel, without so much as a goodbye, I told myself I would never shed another tear for my son. But pain has layers, and betrayal has a way of hiding in the dark until it decides to show itself. It happened on a random Tuesday. I was meeting with my accountant, finalizing a few things with the estate. He asked if I wanted to close my old checking account, the one I used before Miss Grace passed. I almost said yes, but something told me to check the history first just to be sure. So, we pulled it up on his laptop, and there it was, a withdrawal. $12,000 gone. 3 days before my son kicked me out, my stomach turned. I never authorized that. Never withdrew it. I asked the bank to trace it. Same IP address, same city, same last name. I didn't want to believe it, but deep down, I already knew. He took it. He stole the last of my savings before tossing me aside. And it gets worse. I opened Facebook that night. His wife had just posted new pictures. They were on vacation. A yacht, cocktails, 5-star dinner plates. Both of them smiling like they'd won the lottery. The caption said, "Finally taking time for us. We deserve this." That money was my emergency fund. The money I was going to use to survive, to eat, to stay warm, to live. They drank champagne while I ate stale noodles, laughed on a yacht while I cried on a motel bed, tanned under the sun while I pawned my wedding ring to pay rent. He didn't just turn his back on me. He robbed me and then blamed me for needing help. I sat there staring at the screen, my heart pounding, not from sadness this time, but from rage. This wasn't just neglect. It wasn't just distance. It was cruelty. Calculated, clean, cold-blooded. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat in the quiet and said it out loud for the first time. He's not just selfish, he's cruel. And that was the moment I changed. Something inside me hardened. Not bitter, not angry, clear, focused. Because now I knew the truth. He didn't make a mistake. He made a choice. And now so would I. I didn't confront him. I didn't call. Didn't yell. Revenge isn't always about noise. Sometimes the quietest vengeance cuts the deepest. The first thing I did was hire a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. One of the best in the city. Discreet, ruthless, and worth every penny. We started with the basics. I froze all the old joint accounts we once shared. Even the one he probably forgot existed. It had just a few hundred left, but the message was clear. That well is dry now. Then I moved on to phase 2. Something poetic, something perfect. I found out where he and his wife were renting. A mid-range apartment building downtown. Nice enough, close to work, affordable. What they didn't know was that the building had just gone up for sale, and I had the cash to buy it in full. It took less than 3 weeks, a few meetings, a few signatures, and just like that, I became their landlord. Of course, I didn't show up, didn't make a scene. I let the property manager send out the official letter, notice of rent adjustment. Effective next month, all units will see a 60% increase due to new ownership and renovation plans. I heard from the manager later that my son came storming into the office, red in the face, shouting about how this was unfair and sudden and impossible with 2 kids. He begged for leniency, said he knew the old landlord, said he had always paid on time. The manager smiled politely, told him the new owner had made the decision, that it was final, that there was nothing he could do. He never knew, still doesn't. While he was panicking about rent, I was sitting in my garden, fresh lavender, a koi pond, the sun warming my face. But I wasn't done. I made a few calls, reached out to organizations that help single mothers get back on their feet. Women like I used to be. Forgotten, overworked, alone. I donated $100,000 anonymously. No plaques, no press, no credit, just a quiet ripple of help moving through the world. And then finally, I sent one last gift. A small plain envelope. No return address. Inside, I placed 3 things. First, a copy of Ms. Grace's will with a page that named me sole beneficiary highlighted in yellow. Second, a photo of me standing in front of my new home. Elegant, strong, smiling, a woman who had survived the storm and come out shining. And third, the empty checkbook he had stolen from. The one he used to take my last $12,000. I left the last page blank with a sticky note on it. In my handwriting, it read, "You already took everything. Now, there's nothing left for you." I didn't sign it. I didn't have to. He would know. And somewhere in that moment, I hope he felt it. Not just the sting of losing money or comfort, but the weight of losing me. My new home is quiet in all the right ways. No shouting, no judgment, just waves, wind, and the occasional seagull that lands on the balcony. It sits right by the ocean, white walls, big windows. You can see the sunrise from the kitchen and the stars from the bathtub. Some mornings I drink tea with my feet in the sand. Other days I take long walks and smile at strangers who don't know a single thing about my past. And I like it that way. I laugh more now. Not the nervous laugh I used to fake around my son's wife. Real laughter. The kind that fills your chest and makes your eyes wrinkle. There are fresh flowers in every room. Books stacked high on nightstands. A garden I planted myself where nothing is rushed and everything has time to bloom. Sometimes I wonder if he'll ever figure it out, if he'll ever connect the dots. Realize that the woman he tossed aside ended up owning the building he lives in. That while he was crying over rent, I was rebuilding my life one silent victory at a time. He hasn't apologized. But I'm no longer waiting. That part of me, the one that begged to be loved by him, is gone. And in its place stands a woman who finally truly understands her own worth. I gave him everything, every hour, every ounce, every dream. And when I had nothing left to give, he showed me exactly who he was. So I let him go. He threw me away because he thought I was broke. Now he knows what it really costs to lose a mother's love. Let us know in the comment where are you watching from. Please subscribe to the channel Her Side of the Story. Thanks for watching until here.